So the new ZA game finally dropped, and so have the new Megas. However, they don't have abilities, and they won't for a while, so I'm going to be giving them all abilities. My criteria and goal will be a mix of making them as competitively viable as possible, and also what is actually the most realistic thing. First off, Chandelure. Chandelure is a Mega I'm very excited for. He has a huge special attack of 174, which puts him close to having the highest special attack of all time, putting him on par with Mega Alakazam, only 6 points off Deoxys stats, and has a higher special attack stat than Calyrex. He not only has amazing offensive typing, but one of the best offensive typings for special attackers to be specific, hitting Ice, Grass, Bug, Steel, Ghost, and Psychic for super effective damage. So I want to give him an ability that complements him offensively. The ability he has right now is Flash Fire, Flame Body, and Infiltrator, with Flame Body being the most popular. It's far more of a defensive ability, but it still suits him pretty well because burning anyone, especially a physical attacker, is a fantastic way to neuter a Pokemon. So what ability could really put an emphasis on his offensives? So I haven't seen this ability be suggested for him yet, but I think Compound Eyes could actually be really great. The reason I can justify this is lore-wise, his Dex entry states, one of his eyes is a window linking our world with the afterlife, and this is an eye-centered ability. Compound Eyes is used most notably by Galvantula, making his thunders very accurate. I think Chandelure would benefit a lot from this ability because Fire Blast and Overheat are high-powered moves with lower accuracy. Being able to use a 120 base power move and a 130 base power move, or even Will-O-Wisp with near perfect accuracy, would be very beneficial. Chesnaught. Chesnaught is the Mega Evolution I have the highest hopes for because I love my physically defensive Pokemon, and he has two very impressive defensive stats and a very intimidating attack stat. He honestly has the ability to be the amazing stall Pokemon I know he can be, having reliable recovery with the move Synthesis. Chesnaught has a good amount of weaknesses, but also some important resistances like Rock, Ground, Water, Electric, Grass, and Dark. So I'd like an ability that emphasizes his defensive potential, or more specifically one that will buff his physical defense. So I want to suggest Stamina. Stamina is the ability of Mudslail. It's really great because it's built in Iron Defense. It's essentially saving you turns, and you can use that to turn to attack, or for example recover HP. It also means that he would be a great body press user. It would make it a lot easier. The other ability that my friend suggested was Battle Armor. Battle Armor prevents critical hits. Would be great for him is because Mega Chesnaught can max out his defenses via Iron Defense, and the only way to break through him after him setting up would be with the critical hit. While a critical hit is only a 1 in 16th chance, it's definitely happened to you before that I set up and a Pokemon crits and I lose my progress. Critical hits always happen when you least expect it. I feel like that's factual, so it would really help to make him more foolproof. Mega Delphox. So fun fact about Mega Delphox, they did not evolve Serena's Braixen in the anime because Delphox was too ugly. Same thing happened with Empoleon, but I think the Mega was honestly such an upgrade. Now stat-wise, Delphox is the sweeper to beat all sweepers. She is a hyper offense user's wet dream, and since she has access to Psyshock, a stall player's nightmare, this Pokemon is going to be a problem. Now lots of problems that these Megas have is that his speed is underwhelming, but at 134 speed, there won't be many speed ties, even though I don't like Psychic-type Pokemon because it's kind of an underwhelming type offensively and also defensively. Fire is great, as I mentioned. However, because she is a sweeper, she is very, very frail, and this is further emphasized by her weak typing. So because I don't think she needs any help offensively, I think Levitate would be great. This would help with the common earthquakes thrown around and obviously spikes, or toxic spikes. It also makes a lot of sense design-wise. She's literally floating to the point where it would be uncanny if she was affected by ground-type moves or hazards. The next ability is one suggested by that same friend, and would also help her defensively, which is Dazzling. Basically prevents priority moves. Mega Delphox is not going to have the issue of being outsped, however priority moves are going to be a problem for her. Pretty much one of the main weaknesses, especially since she's weak to a lot of them, like Aqua Jet or Sucker Punch. This would help her longevity so much and cement her as an amazing sweeper. Next is Mega Dragonite. So this version of Mega Dragonite takes inspiration off a version of him used in Generation 4. In Gen 4, Dragonite was, yes, still taking advantage of extreme speed, but it was also much more likely to be a mixed attacker. It wasn't uncommon for him to run moves like Draco Meteor, Superpower, Fire Blast, or the hidden powers on the same set. The problem was that a lot of his best moves had negative secondary effects, like superpower lowering physical attack and defense, and DracoMeteor lowering special attack. So not only did he have to deal with common weaknesses, since it was a pre-multi-skill Dragonite, but also constantly having to switch in and out to mitigate those stat changes sucks. However, if we give him Contrary, that would no longer be the case. There are obvious reasons as to why this would be great. Being able to OHKO a Pokemon via superpower, a high base power move, plus boost its defense and attack is great. But it would also make for a great wall breaker and stall breaker. Mixed attackers are not too common, and that makes sense primarily for the reason that choosing nature and choosing stats is inherently a bit more complex. But I think that this would be great. Now, that same friend suggested another ability that makes a lot more sense design-wise, which is Gale Wings. Gale Wings is a signature ability with Talonflame, giving the user priority with Roost. This is a bit more of a defensive ability since flying-type Pokemon don't have great offensive moves, with Fly probably being one of the best ones. However, he does have access to Dual Wing Beat. The reason I feel like this would be great defensively is because he is more of a special attacker, so he would usually use it for Roost. However, it would give his Air Slash priority. Mega Drampa. I don't have high hopes for Mega Drampa competitively because he's a very slow attacker with an unimpressive offensive typing, but aesthetically I'm a big fan. I think giving him the ability to assure his longevity like Regenerator would be perfect. This is based off a lot more of his Dex entry, stating Drampa's cells have been invigorated, allowing him to regain its youth. So I feel like that makes sense. Looking at his stat spread, is actually kind of bland, so his Dex entry is mostly what I have to go off of. I think because of that, Cloud9 would actually make a lot more sense, because the second part of the Dex entry mentions it manipulates the atmosphere to summon storms. This is the ability that makes a lot more sense as well, because it can't be any other weather-based ability, because there's no normal or dragon-type weather-based one. The ability is far more niche, but if weather runs rampant the next gen, with the Megas or Pelipper and Torkoal making a comeback, this could be useful. Next is Mega Eelektross. Mega Eelektross is known for being a Pokemon with no weaknesses because of Levitate, so I really do hope that he keeps it. However, we are operating under the assumption that that's not going to happen. Unfortunately, I was really struggling with coming up with an ability. I don't think any other ability can do it justice. However, my friend gave me the idea of using electric terrain. Terrains, in my opinion, are far better than weather because of the nature of the ability and the lack of Pokemon with it. It's a lot rarer. This would automatically make him stand out. I feel like it's the only reason that can make him stand out, actually, because his stat spread is just kind of confusing. It's the mixed attacker, and that itself is really cool because it's flexible, but he's also a slow electric attacker, and electric types are almost always fast by nature, so him not even surpassing the 100 benchmark is disappointing. Mega Emboar. Yet another confusing stat spread. The physical attack is good, however questionable special attack. I don't think being a mixed attacker is going to be helpful either. However, it was odd to have such a high special defense. It's not like you can slap an assault vest on it. That's another video. There are two abilities I can think to give it. In this Pokemon's Dex entry, it talks about rushing to help its allies. Now, realistically speaking, this is probably hinting towards a doubles ability, but I'm going to ignore that and assume it's hinting towards a speed boost. Mega Emboar is not fast, which is unfortunate, because firefighting is a really great, amazing offensive typing. But it would be really cool. My friend, though, had another ability in mind, which is Hustle. This probably makes more sense lore-wise. Emboar is a hot-blooded Pokemon, he's a fighter, and Hustle has honestly screwed me over a lot of times because of the lower accuracy. But if you're into playing with more risky playstyles, the offensive boost can be fun and worth it. Mega Excadrill. Mega Excadrill is one of the few Pokemon who have 3 goated abilities. One of them was even banned in Gen 5. Mold Breaker means he can break through Pokemon like Rotom Wash and Sandforce, making him an amazing sweeper, and honestly it would be ideal if he kept any of those 3 abilities. I'm not picky at all. However, if we must pick a new one, which I don't really want to, I think Sandstream would be for the best. Sort of how Mega Charizard Y had Droughts, this means that he can be the core of a Sand team, which is possible because he has high stats and a good typing. Mega Falinks. So Mega Falinks is my favorite Mega Evolution design-wise, maybe. It reminds me of a Gundam, and while it's not an extreme stat spread, it's respectable, and it did give a boost in the 2 most important stats, speed and attack. Now aesthetically, I thought Iron Barbs would make a lot of sense. He's riddled with them, and punishing physical attackers is always fun. But my friend had a really cool idea of giving him Supreme Overlord. His justification was that he would be an amazing late game sweeper. The combination of no retreat plus him having the last Pokemon and Supreme Overlord would be terrifying to so many Pokemon. So while mine I think is more realistic, his is a lot more fun, and I really do hope that he gets it. Mega Feraligatr. Probably one of the most controversial designs, and no wonder why. It's balls. but it does give us a good idea of what he will have. It's very probable that he will have Strong Jaw. It's not a bad thing, but it is subpar because there's not a lot of jaw-based moves. It's only Crunch, Bite, the Elemental Fangs, and Hyper Fang. That might sound like a lot, but the Elemental Fangs have low base power. However, my friend had a really cool idea. His idea was Dragon's Maw, in the signature ability of Regidrago. His additional dragon typing is really awesome. It's what players have been wanting for a very long time. It's really amazing offensively, so an ability to specifically boost it would be great. Mega Froslass. Mega Froslass is one of the best received Mega Evolutions, and no wonder why. It's really beautiful. I really like her because she's extremely min-maxed. I love a good min-max Pokemon. Now obviously, snow warning. Mega Pokemon do often have weather setting abilities as I mentioned, so this isn't too out of the ordinary, and in her next entry, it talks about her being able to control the ice around her, which this is predictable. I do think it's necessary because ice Pokemon are just generally not very good, since ice Pokemon have terrible defensive properties and not every ice type can be a fast special attacker or physical attacker. This can make it super easy to finally have a proper hail team, which has been attempted but has never been successful. For that to happen, we do need a good setter and hopefully more than one, so having a Alolan Vulpix and Mega Froslass on one team could actually make it possible. Mega Hawlucha. We have another one of my favorite megas, my Mexican brother Mega Hawlucha. Another one of my favorite megas, not just because of the patriotism, but also because of his stat spread. Every time that Nintendo correctly min-maxes a Pokemon, an angel gets his wings. Super fast, super strong, and good bulk. I might actually start to cry. Now I have two abilities to suggest. One is Moxie. He's already very intimidating, but this would be amazing, just to help him snowball and sweep. He doesn't have to be a late game sweeper, but that would help him out. The other ability my friend suggested is Fur Coat. This makes sense visually with one big coat of fur, and while I think offensive abilities are better suited for offensive Pokemon, this could help his longevity, and I'm honestly okay with it. It's because he's not particularly frail, he already has good bulk, and this would just make him more annoying to take down. It's perfect. I really like this Pokemon. Huge expectations, just don't ruin it. Mega Meganium. Mega Meganium is kind of sad to be honest, but a good ability can save a Pokemon. Plus, a fairy typing is never going to be a bad thing. Game Freak could have been completely capable of giving her a psychic type. Now, the boring idea I had was Chlorophyll. It makes sense giving her Dex Entry, and I feel like that's the go-to grass type ability. However, my friend had a much better typing in Triage, giving her priority on healing moves. Meganium does not have a good speed stat. That's going to hurt her because she's offensively oriented. However, being able to use Synthesis before an opponent's attack is a huge plus. She can also use it for Giga Drain as well, so it's both offensively and defensively oriented. Think Comfy, but with more impressive stats. Mega Starmie. Mega Starmie is interesting because if you look at her stats, her physical attack got a boost, basically hinting that she will have huge power or pure power. I think that's completely possible, so I'll explore this avenue instead of giving my own opinion. I think that the whole Pokemon in general is silly, but the main problem is that she doesn't have a lot of good physical moves, or so you think, but she actually kind of does, surprisingly. She does have good stab options in Liquidation, Aqua Jet, Zen Headbutt, Waterfall, so good stab moves she has covered. It's more than a lot of Pokemon can say. Starmie doesn't have good coverage, however, if she does get huge power or pure power, she might not need it. Like, she can actually just spam her stab moves, or Saluna style. Mega Greninja. Mega Greninja has two abilities, which are not only good, but are iconic to the Pokemon series as a whole, that being Battle Bond and Protein, mostly Battle Bond. It was literally the key part of the X and Y and Z anime of Greninja versus Mega Charizard, so I don't see a reality where he doesn't keep Battle Bond. However, if he doesn't, my friend had the idea of giving him Skill Link. Skill Link would help him with the signature move of Water Shuriken, making sure they can hit the max amount of times, and if it doesn't keep a Battle Bond, the only other ability that would make a lot more sense, also hinted by my friend, was Adaptability. Water and Dark are two of the best offensive typings of all time in the game right now, so having Hydro Pump off of those stats plus the boost, or Dark Pulse, would be devastating. Mega Skarmory. Mega Skarmory is by far my least favorite Mega of all time. I know that is crazy, but they took my defensive Stall King and they took away his defenses to give it to his offense. That sucks. That was like spitting in the face of a stall player. Also, his design is ugly, but my friend came up with a really good ability, probably the best ability for an offensive Skarmory, which is Steelworker, the signature ability of Dalmahize, boosting Steel type moves by 50%. This is necessary because the Steel type is great defensively, but it's not super good offensively. He would also just need to mainly use Iron Head for a good stat move, which is good enough, I guess. But I feel like if you're going to choose an offensive Mega, he isn't the best, as flying as well is not that good of a typing either offensively. Mega Malamar. Mega Malamar is going to suck. mark my words. It will suck if he doesn't keep his ability of Contrary. Psychic and Dark basically means he dies to a 1 U-turn. There's no other ability that can save him. Dark is a good typing, but there are certain combinations of types which are meant to fail, like Steel and Rock, because they share way too many weaknesses. However, if we have to give it another ability, Sharpness could be okay, potentially as it could help with Psycho Cut. The reason this isn't great is partly because Psychic is not a very good type offensively and hasn't been since Gen 2, but Dark is, and it could help with Night Slash. Either way, it's going to be one of the worst megas unless he keeps his ability or gets his own signature one, which I can't see happening. Mega Floette. Okay, on all my subscribers' souls, Mega Floette will be amazing. A min-maxed attacker, which I love. Fairy is one of those types that are so good by themselves, both offensively and defensively, that they don't even need a complementary type. My guess is that she will most likely get a signature ability because of her special role in the series. But if we're going to choose one that already exists, Soul Heart, the signature ability of Meganium, could be possible because of her role as a sweeper. Essentially just the fairy type version of Moxie. I think any other ability would just not be as special. Mega Pyroar. Mega Pyroar is very underwhelming both design-wise and stat-wise. To be fair, there are much worse megas, but because the stat spread is not as visually stunning and it just looks more bland, it looks kind of sad. Visually, the ability that would make more sense is Tangled Hair, where if a Pokemon makes contact, its speed is lowered. Abilities like these are always great because they force the Pokemon to switch out if they don't want to lose their stat drop, making them lose the rhythm of the battle. Another that could work is also Intimidate, which makes sense as well. He does look intimidating, at least as much of a Pokemon with his stupid design could. Mega Scrafty. Besides the odd KKK design, Scrafty also has, say it with me, a confusing stat spread. Instead of min-maxing and investing in his speed and attack, which you would think they would give him his Dragon Dance set, they invested in this random stats, seemingly for no reason. However, I'm not going to give up on his offensive sets, so if I could pick, I would choose Simple. It's a very rare ability, only the Woobat line really has it, but the Dragon Dance plus his ability could make him a great sweeper because his typing is still great. Scolipede. Next, we have another Pokemon who ideally keeps his signature ability in Speed Boost. It's already a rare ability. There's no reason to take it away from him. On top of that, they took speed away from his original 4. We need to keep it more than ever. I think based on his design though, he could get multi-skill. I know Battle Armor would be more on point, but I already chose that, and it means that he has basically one free turn to set up. But I don't have much hope for him. They literally took away part of his speed. That was one of the best things you could do for him. Mega Victreebel. Mega Victreebel got a bad rep because he kinda looks like a suicidal ball sack, but that doesn't mean I won't try to give it a good ability. We have another mixed attacker, and I'm honestly okay with it because Grass and Poison have good special and physical moves like Good Drain or Gunk Shot, etc. And I think we are very used to seeing Grass and Poison together, but I think that it's actually a better typing than we give it credit for because it's so common. Offensively, it can be quite disruptive, so I'm going to give it adaptability. Mega Clefable. Mega Clefable, again, they turned my glorious Stall Queen into an offensive Pokemon, which means that an angel lost his wings. However, I don't think this has to be the end of her stall journey. Clefable has some of the best abilities in the game, mostly defensive, and I don't want to add to that. I really want Clefable to keep Unaware a magic card, but if I'm going to give it one, I'm going to give it Prankster so that it could keep taking advantage of its amazing move pool. I could give her an offensive-oriented ability, but I think that no matter what, being able to use Prankster is just going to be so much better. Next is Mega Barbarnacle. Mega Barbarnacle I don't have super high hopes for because he won't be able to carry a white herb and use Shell Smash. However, I do think that it has a good amount of defenses to take advantage of, so I'll give it Rough Skin. I don't feel the need to justify it a lot because it's objectively a good ability, but he is based on the Goose Barnacle, which is very rough and it can hurt, so I think it checks out. Next is Mega Dragalge. So I'm really into this Pokemon stat spread because it's good defensively. However, I don't want to turn him into a stall Pokemon, so I'm going to give him Corrosion. Poison is not the best stab typing, but it's a good potential typing, and Dragon needs no introduction, so in order to boost his offenses, I want to give it Corrosion, which only Salazzle has. His bulk plus his ability to fight off steel types would be great and useful. And next is Zygarde. I didn't come up with an ability for him because I just feel like there's no way that he doesn't keep Power Construct, and if he doesn't, it's going to be a signature ability. Those are my ideas for their potential abilities. Please tell me what you think. I know a lot of these will be controversial. I did choose a lot of these at like 2 a.m. But thank you so much for watching. And also, you should subscribe if you're also a big fan of Meganium.